gonna be on Nick's channel.
Yeah, man.
Nickelodeon. I'm gonna be on TV, Mom. I'm getting famous.
It's official, right?
Yeah, it's official.
I mean, you can look at the camera, you can look at me, anything you want to do.
I'll do both.
So I feel like I'll never be prepared to start one of these videos, but I was talking with one of my great friends, Nafis, earlier today, and I had talked about interviewing him for a while, and it just turned out we had some time earlier. So we had a conversation about technology, specifically more on the topic of AI and its role of how it is used in today and just the potential for growth in that area into the future. And one of the things that I want to do on my road trip, right, is focus on people and their perception of technology, specifically how they perceive usefulness of technology. And the best way of doing that is through telling their stories or hearing their stories and, you know, bringing it all together into some sort of unified development of ideas. And that's not very concrete. Hopefully, as this evolves, it'll be more concrete. There's just a few things I want to like touch on before we go into the talk and the conversation I have with him, because the conversation is pretty long, so I want you to take away some key points, or like have these points to focus on as you're listening to our conversation. So the first one is like the balance between the benefits and the dangers of technology, and highlighting the being an informed user and having the ability to understand when to use technology, when to not use technology. And specifically with AI, right, the biggest hype or the biggest usefulness of it is having it as a personal assistant. So with it as a personal assistant, it's very invasive in terms of how much it has to be integrated into your life. And that may or may not like sit well with people, specifically with privacy and security, and just like feeling independent and in control of their lives. Another aspect is understanding the role of humans and the limitations we have, and specifically the shift in how historically in the past, right, humans were kind of the gold standard of like intelligence and just like perfect life. We were the best at the time, and with the onset of technology, specifically machines, automation, and now AI, right, we have the ability to do stuff with more precision, faster, more efficient, and just overall better, right? So humans have now become the point of failure for a lot of systems and a lot of problems in today's world. So understanding when we can actually use technology and have it be the right solution for a problem that we're facing currently. And I think the biggest thing is like at the end of the day, right, technology is not life. Life is bigger than technology. So having an understanding of what makes us human and what is important to keep alive as, you know, life evolves and time moves on. With all that in mind, right, listen to our conversation, take away whatever makes sense for you, and I hope to help answer the problem of like, how do we assess the usefulness of technology, and how do you know how to apply technology in the future? So here we go. So, you know, for my road trip that I'm taking later this year, I want to travel across America, figure out how technology is being used, and whether it's meeting the needs of people and helping them to live a better life, and also just like getting them to accomplish what they need to accomplish. So Nafis here has been here for a few years in America, right?
A couple of years, yeah.
So just if you want to tell us a little bit about like where you come from and just like your background in technology, because you're also studying PhD alongside with me in computer science. So
right. So hi guys. Hi mom. So my name is Nafis. I'm from Bangladesh. I lived all my years, you know, all the studying that I did was from Bangladesh. I worked for 3 years in varying fields. I guess I should start with my education. So I did my bachelor's in electrical engineering. Then I worked in sales in a technology firm. I would say it's a telco firm. It's one of the biggest firms in Bangladesh. And then I moved on to the banking industry where I worked as a product manager. And on the side, I was also pursuing my MBA in finance, and working in finance, studying finance, and working in a bank, but in the IT side, to helped develop a lot of perspective. And one thing that I understood was technology, however great it can be, it really still hasn't found a way, or people, I should say, haven't really found a way to kind of befit the needs, the catering everyone's unique needs and perspectives into like a holistic solution. So this is something that I learned back in my banking days, where I tried to test why people weren't using my bank's app and what's wrong with it, and I realized some of the fundamental things were not being met, and that kind of led me to this path that I'm on, like Nick, and to try to find ways how people, which are the main factors driving people to adopt to a certain technology.
Yeah. So do you feel like your path into like the banking and finance side of it was not necessarily destined, but like you felt like that was like the natural progression of your life at the time?
I'm not sure if it was natural, because if you ask any engineering student, he would definitely say this is anything but natural. So you go from electrical engineering, then you go to sales, and then you come back to the IT side of things, but in a bank where the primary product is money.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is all over the place. So I'm not sure if it's a good way of progressing, but this is my life, and this is what I've been doing. But I've been enjoying it for sure. And the banking part of my life was a great learning curve, because I understood the importance of people in technology, like how to address the needs of people. That's primary. It doesn't matter how complicated or unique your solution is, as long as people don't use it or find value in it, there's no use.
Yeah, that's pretty, like, it's just awesome, I guess, like your background so far, and just like that experience in banking gave you kind of like an insight into user interaction, and I feel like normally people don't feel like that in that environment.
For sure.
So I know there's a few things I want to talk about too, and then like last, like, what is it, 2 weeks ago now, we had the presentations for our HCI course,
and that should have been recorded. I was really good at that.
His presentation was spot on. You guys missed it, but but like your topic was using generative AI.
Yes.
And within a more of a
so just to refresh your memory, it was more.
You know I'm bad at these things.
No, it's fine. I know how that feels, like blanking out for some time.
Yeah.
So it was about, like, broadly speaking, I wanted to understand how people adopt to certain technologies. Kind of taking that scheme of thought with the banking app. Why are people using this technology, or why aren't people using this technology? So, kind of taking that problem and flipping it for the generative AI, which is prevalent these days. Everyone, like in various industries, from education, people are using this to solve assignments, to people are using this to make complicated software. So I just want to know, what the impact, like what the tangible impact is in this sector. I mean, you can narrow it down, or you can try to go like a general, like in general, why do people use generative AI? Like, why do you use ChatGPT? Or you can go completely narrow. For example, in the software industry, you want to understand, does this benefit the software developers? So that's what my project was on.
Right, and like one of the main points that you made that I loved at the time was the focus on how effective a generative AI was being applied was really based off of perception.
Yes.
And
so So just elaborating on that point, all of this work is very hard to do, like, with concrete numbers, because at the end of the day, it's all perception. So unless you go like, okay, this is a task, like you have to write an essay, and a real person will write an essay, and ChatGPT will write an essay given the same prompt. Like I'm giving you a prompt, like write an essay on a rainy day while you're like sitting on a bench looking at the rain. So, same prompt goes to a real human being and the ChatGPT, and this is, blind tested by an English professor, and then he doesn't know which one's ChatGPT and which one's the real human being, and then they give you the feedback. So this is a task technology fit problem. Like, you see how well a certain task is being completed by the generative AI, and in comparison with a real human being without it. So if you do something like that, then of course you're going to get conclusive results. Like maybe do this 10 times, and then you see the professor graded ChatGPT like 8 times better than the human being. So of course, real life problems aren't as simple. If you want to develop a software, it's difficult to kind of put a task-based project on every single nitty-gritty aspect of it. So this is why there aren't really substantial amount of researches done. Although I was able to find a few, but they didn't really have conclusive data out there. What they said was we have the data, but for security reasons, for privacy reasons, we can't publish it. But here are the results from it. And which for me, the person I am, I didn't find it to be as convincing enough, because I can't really test the data on my own. But at least people are working on this, and the underscoring fact here is all the industries from education to software development, they all found ChatGPT to be of good use. They found it to significantly improve progress in terms of delivery dates, in terms of having someone to consult with, if you're a junior developer and then you need to at 11 p.m. you want to you have some sort of an idea, you want to run it by your manager, you can, but you can run it by ChatGPT and see if that works. But of course, then again, the whole ethical side of things, are you sharing your valuable intellectual property with ChatGPT who are going to make use of this, sell the data? I mean, that opens up a whole new topic, which again, could be a separate podcast of its own.
For sure. And obviously any sort of conversation is kind of branches off in all the different disciplines.
And I have a talent for branching off.
No, but you're good. I feel one of the things you focused on, and you touched on just now too, was technology becomes a very personal tool. And I guess one of the things that I'll bring up, because it stuck with me ever since my dad told me. When I was first learning to drive a car, my dad was saying, he was trying to teach me about the dangers of driving, and when you're not careful as a driver, a car is technically a weapon, right? And any sort of technology is a weapon, right? If it's used in the wrong way, or if it's used maliciously or with bad intent,
for sure,
it can be used to hurt people, right? So in the same way, ChatGPT has so much benefits, but it also has so much downsides for the same sort of actions that it can perform.
Yeah.
So kind of qualifying that in terms of how people understand it can help them use it better. And creating education around that's kind of hard, because it's a new thing. Because people have kind of always had their sort of their desire for a personal assistant. It's always nice to have someone to rely on, to do stuff in support of your day-to-day tasks. So it's kind of answering that need of this is something I can use to help me do what I do normally.
Yeah.
But the fact of technology being applied in sort of an invasive way, it's harder to draw lines in terms of saying this is something that is good for ChatGPT or generative AI to be used for as an application versus this is something bad. So I guess for that, do you have any thoughts on?
I mean, yeah, I just starting with something just came to my mind while you were talking about the example with cars. So just going off on a tangent here.
Hey man, talk about it. That's why we're here.
Elon Musk said something that I found really interesting. It's maybe 10 years down the line, it's going to be people are not going to be able to fathom the fact that you don't have like automotive self-driving cars or self-driving mode, because right like for some if you can recall, like if in all the elevators that we have right now, we push a button and then it goes, right? Before, they used to have people inside, they would just operate, right? The levers and everything. So right now, we don't need that anymore. We have enough trust in that elevator system to know. So yeah, and the perception thing can be brought here as well. But the statistics tells us like how many deaths have occurred because of the elevator, right?
It's like aviation flights too. So.
Yeah, so people have enough trust in that system, and it's more likely to cause more deaths if it was
Operated by a
intervened
human.
or operated by a human being.
Yeah.
So this is what's probably going to happen, because if we know anything, like humans are pretty erroneous, and if you replace that human error in terms of driving, it's probably going to save more lives. But it's going to be a huge shift, because this is something that, again, driving is an experience on its own.
Yeah.
Even if you hate driving or
Yeah.
you don't really enjoy it, you clearly haven't been to the I-95, so it's not a pleasurable experience. So people are gonna at one stage are gonna
Definitely
find
during
it
rush hour.
really weird. We had cars that didn't have self-driving modes. So, and kind of moving on from that, like with generative AI, I know we've been going on about ChatGPT, but there's a lot of generative AI. There's AI that uses our voice notes to completely sing a song using the frequencies and everything. So there's a lot more things that you can do, but we end up talking about ChatGPT the most because it's used the most.
Yeah, it's
and
the most
since
widely
we're in
available.
academia right now, we see, and this is how, and this is why you talked about the invasive thing, because everyone's using it to kind of cheat their way through assignments and projects. So the way, like, my view on this is very similar to how the view was back in the 90s era, when the internet was the internet boom was happening. From what I've read, like, people, teachers, academics, they were arguing on the same thing. Kids are just copying off the internet what they're seeing, and they're just doing using the internet to solve their assignments. But we got past that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
it's not like education stopped after the internet boom happened.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the same thing, because ChatGPT and generative AI aren't going anywhere. If they're going to be more and more prevalent.
Of course.
But the way I see it, you need the academia, the education sector needs to improve or evolve,
their processes,
update their processes. So no more assignments like write an essay based on this prompt.
Nonsense work just to keep you busy.
Exactly. So no more essays. So teachers will have more work based on, like, say, a project. Even if you completely write a project on ChatGPT with exact prompt, it's not going to give you the same answer. It's probably not going to give you the exact code that you need, that you can just write and then it's gone. I mean, some stuff definitely, yes, but you need to frame the work, the assignments in a way so that doesn't happen. I mean, teachers have access to the ChatGPT platform as well. So, I mean, they can see the prompts there.
I mean, yeah, teachers know when you're copying off of it.
And I feel like I know ChatGPT has created a problem. They're probably going to create a solution as well. Like here, you can use this to build any project, write any essay, whatever. And here's another solution that tells you whether this solution that was given was written by a machine or not. So, classic Apple thing. You create a problem, create a solution.
That's the best way to be in business, right?
Yep.
Create a problem and then solve it yourself, right?
Right.
But I think like what you talked about was important, because it's not that I don't know. So like the main thing is, like, technology is supposed to make our lives better, right? So it's not supposed to say that like what you're doing before was bad or was wrong. It's just saying that life's different now and you have to like adapt to it, right? What you said before. So like with the education example was like you arguably what you were learning in school before wasn't really what you should have been learning. Like, it wasn't preparing you for life. School should be preparing you for life, but like it doesn't really do that.
I mean, that's an argument on its own. Like, what is the point of school or education? So,
Right.
I mean, I don't want to even get into that because I have some strong opinions.
But like in the same way, like what they're testing you on,
Yeah, yeah.
it should be like different now. It's not
For
that
sure,
you're not
for
gonna
sure. With
know.
the advent of such technologies,
Right.
I mean, you have to update. Otherwise, you're gonna have a big headache. You know, and the technology is evolving so fast. I mean, OpenAI, the CEO Sam Altman always talks about AGI. So, I mean, we're not
He
that
got
far
scared.
off.
That's why.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and we're not that far off. I feel like maybe 5 years down the line, we're gonna have robots that use the OpenAI's, ChatGPT, and other generative AIs, APIs to do everything that an average human does.
Yeah. And I guess like the other point that I just thought about from what you said was that the human error aspect of it.
Yeah.
Before, humans were considered like the best of the art, right? The best of everything, because of our
In terms
cognitive.
of thought, baby, but not in terms of like doing mundane work, like for
Well,
example.
that's why we got machines, right? They
Yeah,
built machines
exactly.
to,
That's
to
why-
figure out that
right,
stuff.
right.
But before they had machines, right? Humans were like
Right.
all you had, right?
Yeah.
We were the state of the art at the time.
Right.
So as technology evolved and as machines were built and they were automated and like improved upon, what's happening is humans have kind of decreased in the realm of like expertise, in the sense that humans are no longer considered the golden standard. Humans
sure.
are now considered the point of failure,
Yeah.
if you will. And that shift is pretty interesting if you examine it further,
Yeah.
because it's like,
So, just building upon that in some nerdy talk. So, we a problem like we're in the data science. I'm in the data science field. So, this is an anecdotal example, but like a lot of people jump into, say, like you have a classifying problem. You have apples and oranges. You want to classify. Everyone just jumps into neural networks. Like they want to kill up. Like as my professor said, like you don't want to kill a bird with a bazooka. Like a simple like air rifle is good enough for that. So I feel like people
we don't
right
support
now,
killing animals.
no. This is just an example. This is just an example. So I mean, the point is like you want to frame a solution like in a way that is like apt or like that is molded to the nature of the problem. So you don't want to overkill it.
Yeah.
So
use the right tool for the right
use the
problem.
right tool for the right problem. So you don't need to like use certain things that are not meant for that. So that being said,
So do you think AI is becoming more of a like hammer for all situations now? That
yes. So
we have to prevent that from happening.
and I feel like when humans as human beings, whenever we have like a easy way of getting something, we're inherently like we have this inherent urge of like not trying to think and just we have enough problems in our lives to we convince ourselves I'm just get the solution in and then I'm gonna do this. I'm probably gonna figure it out later, and we end up not figuring it out. As just the machine does the work for us.
Yeah.
But we have to understand that as
Become
human
lazy.
beings, we're creative individuals, and to enable that creative mentality, we can replace all the mundane stuff with machines, but leave the truly creative stuff to our own. One of the biggest problems right now is like the designing industry is really scared because of DALI 3. So you can write text-based prompt and
it
it
could
gives
generate
you
these
generate pretty good
amazing,
images. And then of course there's also Adobe has this Adobe. Sorry, Adobe has like generative AI built in, so like you can write certain prompts and it will like you frame the tool in a way that it takes care of the design problem that you have. For example, you have this blemish on a picture, you want to erase that without knowing what tool it is. Even if I as a person like who has minimal knowledge in designing using like the After Effects or whatever, what software, Photoshop or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, we gotta get alcohol, so we might go somewhere else.
You good, man.
No
Don't
worries.
worry about it.
Yeah. So
What were we talking about?
I forgot.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So
Publish later.
So, I guess bringing it back, because we kind of went on a little bit of tangent
Yeah,
from
yeah.
like usefulness of technology, but we're trying to figure out like what is the best way or what is the best circumstance that you can use technology in, and like
I feel like this is important. We should pause.
I mean we could pause.
Yeah, we would just pause because there's a lot of noise. And we can cut this out.
Yeah, it's
I
fine.
feel like this is an important question.
I actually didn't have a question, so like,
This is a filler.
but like I mean it's not supposed to be like a formal interview. Like it's supposed to be relaxed.
I kept.
Just restarting it. We're already
So,
stalking,
we're
so that's
back.
fine.
So I was just telling Nick about,
You don't have to cut your train of thought just like that, bro.
I was telling him about how ChatGPT and other generative AIs are basically a teacher on demand. So that's how I personally.
school shenanigans. You know what to expect. You're good.
So remember, like, you can't access your professor at 3 a.m. or just the day before your assignment is due, but you
Yeah.
can have access to ChatGPT
Yeah.
and other generative AIs. So you can use that as like a brute force method to get the solution. Keep prompting until something works, or you could, go iteratively like you would with a teacher, right? Like, this is what I'm doing. Please tell me what's wrong. Why is this not working?
Yeah.
And then it builds on this, and then you try something out, and then you see it's still not there yet. So it's an iterative process. So essentially replace or make that teacher that you always wanted on demand. So that's how I like to look at it, and that's how I personally use it.
Yeah. So I mean that goes into, but how does that reconcile with the not making AI be a hammer for everything?
So
Because at that point, like, you're talking
really,
to
it really doesn't, because
Yeah.
playing the devil's advocate here, it really doesn't. So at the end of the day, this technology allows you to essentially apply for anything. Of course, even you can upload certain data, like you can upload Excel's PDFs. It can even read that and then give you a prompt, give you an answer based on that.
Yeah.
So it can be a hammer for everything, but it can be a giant hammer, it can be a small hammer,
Or it could be a gold hammer,
Yeah,
or like
but the deciding factor here is how you actually prompt, how you frame the problem to the ChatGPT or any other generative AI.
Yeah. So a good analogy then is like it's still a hammer for all, but it's
Yeah.
like the hammer has like
Yeah,
attachments on it that make it more
So
specialized.
the
to the
hand is
problem.
still yours, so it's not going to hammer itself. You need to be using it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I feel like I was transitioning away from AI a little bit before, but we did get into a little bit deeper conversation on AI for a little bit. But like bringing it back into like general usefulness of technology. Do you feel like there's gonna be applications for technology outside of AI? Because AI is becoming this like general intelligence, right? That people are
Yes.
relying on to
Yeah, that's what
do
everyone's
everything.
like working up to.
So like there's the counter of it, like of the robotic side of technology, whereby to be able to operate in the world, you have to have like mechanisms and like arms and legs and like mouth and or just
So
a
are you
microphone.
asking me what next? Like,
No, so we have the AI that's gonna be like the human thing without human error.
so essentially, what you're saying is like currently the pursuit of AI is to like build a perfect human being.
Is it not?
It is,
Okay. So and then
because Sam Altman. I don't want to misquote, of course,
Of
but
course,
but,
yeah.
but my interpretation
Don't take
was,
any of this for
yeah. My interpretation was from his words. Like it's a popular podcast with Lex Friedman. So his conversation was essentially like they're working up to this artificial general intelligence, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a fancy way of saying we want to create like a human-like intelligence without the errors, essentially a perfect human being, right? But we know for a fact that it's our imperfections that leads to the unique, innovative works that humans do. And yeah, I feel like that's imperfections are one aspects for creating innovation. It's
You said
because
imperfections?
yes, and the reason why I say that is
It's like reinforcement learning, explorative
yes,
versus
exactly.
yeah.
So it is because of the imperfections of me that he gets inspired and that he's trying to, create a technology that can do better.
Yeah.
And if humans or machines have nothing to, improve on, what are they going to do? What is the purpose of machines?
Yeah.
I mean, you can argue that the machines just, can do the same thing over and over and over again because they have no sentience, so they're not non-emotional.
Yeah.
But humans aren't like that. You give problems to a human solves it, and then he wants to, or she wants to move on to the next one.
Yeah.
That's how humans are.
Yeah.
So
we don't like to dwell on the same thing
exactly.
over and
So
over again.
and one thing is that humans don't have a good memory. I don't have a good memory.
I don't have a good memory either.
Yeah,
So
but machines have really good memory. So
yeah.
Be good to machines.
Unless they have a hard drive
remember,
failure.
They remember, unless they have a hard drive failure.
That's one way of preserving the future, right? Just destroy all your hardware.
Yeah, I mean, like Neuralink, if you can upload your memory, or you can even like feel things that you never felt before.
Yeah.
If you access all parts of your brain with the software. I don't know what the future holds, but it's exciting.
No, of course, and like to kind of counter like the latest and greatest and the cutting edge of like technology advancements. One of the things, right, I'm trying to do here is make the technology that we have available today more effectively applied today.
Right.
So in that way, do you have any pointers from your own life about like how you use technology that you can that others might be able to benefit from?
Right. So I just briefly saying 2 points here.
Yeah.
We have the same class in human computer interactions where we acted. The one thing that I took away from this course, besides the numerous theories, of course, is that the user is most important for any technology. It's the user is of prime importance. And for me, like whenever like software testing is happening, I know like people are really good testers. You can find really good testers these days.
Yeah.
But
what are they testing for?
what are they testing for? Like testing teams usually have an agenda. So at the end of the day, make the actual users test it without giving them any sort of feedback, and just be like sponges, like learn as much as you can from their feedback. And I feel like certain technology companies like Apple uses this concept really well, which is why their products are so good in terms of like design. They, mind you, they don't give as much freedom as Android does, but people who even have used Android, which like majority of people, I know you won't be like that, but the majority of them would like want to switch because of the simplicity, because of the design, because of certain intrinsic things that are more of value to the general public than, of course,
without
say,
a
like
technology
power user,
background.
without a technology background. So people in general want to do like simple things really effectively, and that's why companies like Apple do so well, even without giving so much as Android or other companies.
Yeah.
So, of course, put user here, and then technology is like the server.
So that point is more for how to develop technology, right? But like as a user of technology, assuming like you have all these technologies available to you, how do you know what to use? And like how do you actually integrate that into your life?
That's a difficult question. I feel like that's subjective.
Of course.
In many ways. I can of course only tell you my opinion and
Right.
how I use it. So for me, I always like to use technology, the latest and greatest, of course, as much as I can get in my hands on, but I know when to like veer off, or how to isolate myself from being overwhelmed, because as human beings, when you have too much choices, like you get bogged down and you get like problems with decision making, like you don't know what to use, how to use, when to use. So too many options can lead to like you're being crippled.
Yeah, so what you're saying is like you have to just dive into it to get the experience, but also
sure.
you have to figure out
at the end of the day you need to narrow it down, because you have like a lot of like generative AI, but like personally speaking, I use Perplexity these days because it's more like Google, and it's like a love child between Google and
love child are the best.
ChatGPT. So I don't use ChatGPT anymore. I don't use Google anymore. Like not all that much. I just use Perplexity. So So you need to narrow it down because you have like 1,000 systems that you can use, but at the end, like you're a human being, your time is finite, your mental resource and capacity is finite. So narrow it down to like only things that work well for you, that make sense to you, and without getting overwhelmed, try to make use of what makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean, that's kind of like just life in general, right?
Yeah.
You got to try things out and then
yeah, and use what's best for you.
What's best
or
for
what
you.
works for you.
Yeah. So I guess we kind of we kept back into the AI and AI talk, but do you think that applies for non-AI technology too? So I guess like nowadays it's very hard to figure out what's
I was
not
speaking
AI.
for since I'm like
Oh,
excited
just
about
give
this
me an
technology,
example of
I
that.
always give examples on this, but it applies to every technology. Like when the wireless charging came out, like everyone was really excited for it because you just put your phone on this dock and then it's going to charge wirelessly, but is it really like solving a bigger problem than connecting to the wire, because you're still having to dock it, right? You can't move it. I know there are certain companies that increase the surface area, like a surrounding where it still charges, but that technology is pretty difficult to achieve.
So like I think in that case it's like the seamlessness of not having to like do the action of plugging the cable, like you can just pick up and go as opposed to like unplugging the wire.
But is that giving you enough value, like for the majority of the people? That's I mean, it's nice that our phones have wireless charging, but how many people actually really use it?
Yeah, I honestly only use it when I'm in the car. I don't even like my car is too old. 2016 doesn't have that. But with newer cars, like if I'm just in the car and I see it there, I just put it there and just like let it charge. But like that's really the only. I don't have wireless chargers at home or anything like that.
Right.
So
that my point or the example was to make a point that people all make technology. It's pretty innovative technology if you think about it objectively, but is it really solving a problem? So the problem here being, I want to be able to charge my phone.
You want to have your phone charged. You don't even charge it.
I want to charge my phone for sure, but I want to do it like less invasively or with less obstruction as possible. Like I want to be moving around while it's charging. I don't want to be restricted by like a wire or like a dock or something like that. So so even if the technology is pretty innovative, like wirelessly charging, even if it's like from a small range, but it's not really solving the bigger problem here. Like it's not really decreasing the restriction as much.
Right. Well, I mean, I think we were talking about the same point about the charging aspect, but I think assuming that your phone stays charged all the time, you don't really care if it's actually charging or not. You just want the power to be there.
For sure. I mean, like the users are not going to care how it's going to charge, provided your battery health isn't being damaged and you're charging fast enough.
Well, you're talking about battery health, but like, when was the last time we had a phone that actually had a removable battery? Like, battery health, I think, is like
ago.
Battery like users don't really have devices that they have to like worry about battery health.
From what I see, like people usually replace their like phones before their battery health degrades to like 80%.
Yeah, to a point that it can't recover.
Yeah.
But okay, so that brings up a great segue into it sounds like, right, for technology to be applicable, there has to be very little difference between the technology and the human. But also, humans want to have a huge amount of like independence, and they want to be able to, get out of technology as much as possible too.
Like
so
that statement is a paradox, isn't it?
It is, exactly.
People want independence, but then again, they also want to depend on technology to like do all their stuff, like the mundane stuff. So it's hypocritical, for sure. But I'm gonna sound like a broken record right now. But balance is key. Like you need to understand which systems, which functionality is important to you, and then wind down and then not use anything else. Because again, resources limited, this resource limited, your time limited. So you need to know what to use, when to use, how to use.
No, I think this is like, there's a lot of little tidbits in here that I think people can take away and like kind of evolve their practices in technology to improve their lives. But I think one thing I want to like end on, if you want to like talk about it a little bit more, is if you were starting out in life today, right?
I feel like I'm in a YouTube video.
No, man.
Like, what would you do if you could start out from scratch as a data scientist or
No,
something like that? Okay, no, go
So
ahead.
like if you were starting out today in like, because there's like people starting out today in terms of like there's babies being born today, right?
sure.
And like the world that they're getting born into is so much different. Obviously starting out today is not very contextualized because there's so many people at different ages, at different stages of their life that like it's not really like no technology or all technology or something like that. But like
Yeah.
if you had to like start out today in terms of having a plan for improving technology application in your life, like what would you change about your life, or like what would you tell yourself, like, because okay, for us, like growing up, right, maybe like when we graduated from high school or like going to college, there was like a transition, right? Like you're not a kid anymore and you're like going into real adulthood, right? Being a grown-up. At that stage, what would you tell people in terms of how to manage technology in their lives?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I feel like, you're asking me for parental advice.
I mean, we all gotta be parents to the younger generation, right? That's the only way that they.
So, I mean, of course, if I was growing up, I'd be on TikTok all the time right now because that's
Wow.
what all the kids are using. So
Yeah.
I'm a bit older. I know might not look it like it, but I'm a bit older.
Hey man, we're still young.
So the way I would frame this is that, there's so many things, so many genres. Like for entertainment alone, there's
Yeah.
so many things that you can like spend in there 24 hours on. So again, broken record. So you have to respect your time and your mental resources as finite, and you have to understand what is useful and what is not. So
Yeah.
if I was like a high school student just getting to adulthood with all the freedom, there's my parents, I'm not living with my parents anymore, maybe I'm living in a dorm,
Yeah.
or maybe I have all the independence I can have, and if I wanted to, I could spend all my time on like social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever. But at the end of the day, am I really achieving something that's fruitful, that's productive,
Yeah.
that'll give me benefit, or am I learning something new? So that's essentially what I would ask myself at the end of the day, because as human beings, we have an inherent need to improve, or at least, at the very least, make our lives better, ease our lives. So whatever form that you do, there's this theory called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once you have the essential
Right.
things
Yeah,
taken care
survival,
of,
yeah.
you want like abstract stuff, like you want to feel whole, and whatever like inspires. For example, working on stuff that inspires me feeds some inherent need inside me and makes me feel satiated or satisfied.
Yeah.
So
Satiated.
yeah.
Being
So-
all. Yeah.
So I would say, when we were talking about this off camera, learning how to learn is it's really important. So
Yeah.
this is something that I feel like technology, like ChatGPT, helps us to do, because we can essentially prompt it to explain why it solved something in a way that it did. So
Yeah.
knowing, just not brute forcing everything, knowing why you're doing something, even if all the answers are given to you, you need to know why you're doing something. Because at the end of the day, when you are in a situation where time is of the essence,
Yeah.
you can't like prompt something, hey ChatGPT, or what do I do in this situation, and you're like,
Yeah.
So in crunch time, like for example, when Elon Musk is launching his rockets, so there's a very minimal chance of error. So you need to go through the process many times. So that applies in general for our lives too. So even if there are technologies that are going to be available that's going to be helping us all through, like hand holding us
Yeah.
all through our lives, there are going to be times when we're going to be on our own. Be it in like while we're camping, we're out in the wilderness with no data, essentially like no internet, no ChatGPT. So at one time, technology is going to run out, and we're going to have to rely on our humane skills.
Yeah.
At the very least, empathy.
Yeah.
That the person next to me is feeling sad, I should at least have that knowledge to empathize. not go like, hey, ChatGPT, person next to me is sad, what should I do?
I mean, yeah, we don't want to be a generation that's like behind
I think
screens.
I should end with just this part, like try to practice, try to work on the stuff that makes us more humane.
Yeah.
And this is not just the soft skills that you read on the resume guides, like, leadership and all these buzzwords. No, truly, like, work on innovation, work on talking to people, selling. These stuff require a lot of effort, and trust me, no machine is gonna like completely
Replace
take
it.
over this.
Yeah. No, bro, you literally gave us so much to unpack in that last segment that you said. But I think that like you said, the balance of like knowing that there is life outside of technology, and technology is not life, is important. And then like going on like there's so much you said just now. I can't even like recall it properly.
Yeah,
but
to summarize, like, technology is a tool, so
Yeah.
use it like a tool to make your life better, and not become like a slave to technology.
yeah. But and then like you're talking about like figuring out what's useful to you, right? And that's an ongoing problem, very
For sure,
subjective.
for sure.
We were talking
And
about that
it's
earlier.
iteratively,
And it changes
it's an
too.
iterative process.
Yeah, and it changes all the time. So that's some of the thing that I'm gonna try and quantify and qualify a little bit more. Like, what is usefulness for people, and like as a society, right? We should have some sort of paradigm or some sort of construct that says like, these are the things that we value, and these things we value give us some sort of benefit in life, right? So trying to figure out what that is for us in America, because you're going to be a long-term resident, right?
Let's see.
But yeah, so just like in America first, and then internationally, it's a much bigger, broader landscape when you talk about all the different cultures. And like America is a melting pot, right? So like
For sure.
all the things that we have in America, there's so many things outside of America too, but like I feel like America is a good like petri dish to kind of like cultivate some of those founding concepts of like how technology is useful and stuff. So I appreciate the time, bro.
For sure.
I love you, man.
Thank you.
we'll be around, but like if you guys want to follow Nafis, right? I'll put some of the links in the description below.
Yeah.
And
Yes, I don't have any.
he's lying. He's awesome.
Thank you guys. And again, Mom, I'm gonna be on TV.
Thanks for watching the video. Just remember, balance is key, and the user is the most important part. And guess what? You are the user. So I want to hear from you, right? This whole trip is about bringing people together from different backgrounds, getting all of us on the same page with technology, and with technology, getting us to a better future. So I hope we can open the conversation, keep this going, and build some momentum, and hopefully make a little bit of change along the way that builds into something greater. So So stay tuned for more.